Hello and welcome to Who's the Bossk? It's a Star Wars podcast from laughingplace.com. My name is Mike Celestino. I'm your host. I am the lead Southern California reporter and editorial director for Star Wars content at Laughing Place. This is episode number 212 of Who's the Bossk, and we will be discussing the latest episode 5 of Lucasfilm's live action Star Wars series, Star Wars Skeleton Crew, which is coming out weekly right now on Disney Plus. And for that discussion, I have invited back on the show my friend and fellow fan of popular culture in general, we'll say, Drew Grgich. Drew, how are you? How's your holiday season going? Thank you for coming back on the show.
I am great, Mike. The holiday season has been delightful. Spent some time with family and friends. It's been really great. And it's super exciting to be here. I'm excited to talk about this episode.
Yeah, it's a fun one. I can't wait to chat about it with you. First, I want to ask you, people would know you from the Star Wars Galactic Star Cruiser podcast, Heroes of the Halcyon. How have
Yeah.
things been going over there? And we'll talk about the latest episode in a second, but yeah, how's the podcast going in general?
It's going well. You know, a lot of people say, and I remember talking about this on your podcast and earlier, is that how can you make a podcast about a 48-hour experience that ended a couple of years ago? Well,
Yeah,
it turns out there's a ton to talk about. We've really been enjoying digging into some of the corners of the Galactic Star Cruiser and how it relates, and most importantly, the community that has sprung up around the podcast. Not the podcast, pardon me, the experience itself, the
yeah.
Galactic Star Cruiser experience. It's been delightful to talk to folks, and we keep finding new things to talk about all the time.
And I saw that your latest episode, I haven't listened to it yet, but your latest episode is about the VR experience,
Yeah.
Star Wars Tales from the Galaxy's Edge, which I played through and really, really enjoyed from ILM X Lab. I think it's called ILM Immersive now.
Yep.
But tell me a little bit about that. Did you actually get to play through it yourself?
I did. I didn't play through the whole game. I bought it for the Quest.
Yeah.
My fellow podcast host Martin, he played it on the Sony PlayStation VR 2, which has an enhanced version with some graphical improvements and so forth. I played the very beginning on the Quest, and oh my goodness, it. If your audience hasn't had a chance to try any of these immersive experiences that are available in VR,
Yeah.
it's the closest thing you can get to without going to the parks or putting yourself surrounded, or if you happen to have a vault, that might be a way to
Yeah.
get into it as well. But the story and the reason we covered it on Heroes of the Halcyon is because it takes place in Batu, not just Black Spire Outpost, but the
Right.
surroundings. So you get to explore the planet and you get to see a little bit more behind the scenes of that environment. And it's so much fun.
Yeah, every time I go to Black Spire Outpost down at Star Wars Galaxy's Edge now, I look up and I point out, oh, that's where Cecil Slack's cantina
Yep.
would be
Right over
located.
there.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's kind of up looking out over the docking bay where the Millennium Falcon is docked.
Yep.
So yeah, really enjoyed that VR game. Like you said, it was cool to get to
Oh yeah.
explore kind of the wilds of Batu. So check that out and also listen to the episode. Did you guys have a guest for that one, or was just you three?
No, it was just the three of us. Martin actually recently finished the game, and starting at the beginning of this week, it's available free for PlayStation Prime or
Oh,
PlayStation Plus, the highest level. You can get it for free. So folks who subscribe to that service and have the PlayStation 2 VR 2, it's available for you free of charge and just highly recommended.
great. And yeah, the episode is available now at Heroes of the Halcyon. Next, I would like to address kind of the elephant in the room, Drew. You probably heard me plug on this show a number of times a podcast that you and I did. I guess it would have started about a year ago.
Yeah, almost a year ago. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and it went for a few months, and then we had some like fits and starts
Right.
of
Yes.
continuing it, and eventually, it is no longer, I guess you could say.
Right.
So it was called Pop Culture Explorers Club. Basically, each episode you and I talked about some, a pop culture franchise or a movie
Yeah.
that we love, or something like that, and we had a different guest on each week. There were a few episodes that were just me and you.
Yeah.
And it was certainly a lot of fun. I would say what happened was we couldn't get our schedules to line up on a
Th-
regular
yes.
basis. I don't know.
Yeah.
What do you think? What happened there?
I think that's exactly what happened. I know that at one point I had COVID and that kind of threw the
Yeah.
bus off the tracks. And then for one reason or another, again, just getting the schedules lined up, like you said, you are incredibly busy. For folks
Yeah.
who don't know how much work Mike puts into all of this and his work at laughingplace.com, it's obviously a big commitment. I mean, it's your job after all.
Yes.
And you do a fabulous job of it.
Thank
And
you.
I will again say, Mike, that I'm jealous because I think you have the best job in show business, which is great. But yeah, I think it's very much just trying to balance those basketballs turned out
Yeah.
to be a challenge for both of us.
Yeah, I think it ended up being a little bit biting off a little bit more than I could chew, unfortunately. So I apologize
Oh,
on
you don't have
behalf
to.
of the both of us, but
Oh,
that
and
didn't
I
quite work
apologize
out.
too. Yeah, it
Yeah,
was fun to do. It's super fun to talk
yeah,
about. We had a fair amount of people who reached out. I suspect you as well. What happened to the podcast? Well, you know how
yeah.
things go. But
Yeah, time is all boy, time is really, really tough. Like I just got for Christmas yesterday, I got the new Zelda game for Nintendo Switch, and I'm like, I don't know when I'm gonna be able to play. I haven't even opened the seal
right.
yet.
Yep.
Uh, but boy, it's just tough to fit things in these days. Anyway,
It
it
is.
was fun to do those dozen or so episodes with you, Drew. And I'm glad
Likewise.
that we have remained in touch. And I'm
Yes.
glad that you were able to come back here on Who's the Boss and talk more Star Wars with me. By the way, we are live right now on the Laughing Place YouTube channel. If you would like to comment along or ask any questions, we'll be happy to address any concerns that you may have. Nobody has commented yet, but if you do, I will
Good.
be sure to bring you up on the screen there.
That
Let's get
means we're
into
doing
this.
things right, Mike. That's
Yeah,
good.
that's it. No notes yet, as they
Yeah.
say. Um, Drew, this is your third time as the featured guest on Who's the Boss. You had appeared also one other time with Martin and
You're right.
Christine
Yep.
the day that they announced that the Galactic Star Cruiser would be closing. You guys
Yep.
came on and we did kind of a moratorium on that. But you are up to level 3 of the 5 Star Wars questions. Are you ready for these?
I am. I'm very honored to advance in the levels.
Excellent. So let's get into it. Number 1 of the 5 Star Wars questions, level 3. What is your favorite Star Wars book or comic book and why?
This was easy for me. For me,
Okay.
it's Heir to the Empire.
Oh, great.
That book came out when I was in high school, and I was very excited because I'd read a couple of the Star Trek expanded universe, if you will, novels that were around at the time, and
Yeah.
I'd always wondered why can't we do the same thing in Star Wars? And when they finally allowed those novels to be published, it really showed that the Star Wars saga obviously was more than just what we saw on the films, and I love the way that Timothy Zahn, the author of those books,
Yes.
really just opened up the universe. He kept it very Star Wars flavored. It was Star Wars. When I was reading the book, it truly
Yeah.
felt like I was seeing an expansion of the films and the expansion of the universe. And it showed us that the possibilities were endless. And it also introduced Mara Jade, who I
Yeah.
just think is a fabulous character, and very much enjoyed that whole the Emperor's Hand saga.
Yeah. It's so interesting to me how prominent Grand Admiral Thrawn is now in
Yeah.
the
Yes.
current Star Wars canon, but we have not heard hide nor hair from Mara Jade yet. And I
Nope.
wonder if that will ever happen. I think it's tricky with
Yeah.
Luke, because the whole idea of the Jedi kind of being chaste
Yep.
was introduced by George Lucas in the prequel trilogy after Timothy Zahn had written the Thrawn trilogy. So I don't know if Luke would pursue like a romantic relationship in that way in the current canon, but I bet there's got to be another way they could bring in Mara
Oh,
Jade.
absolutely. Sure. And
I don't know. Yeah,
she's such a great character. I mean,
yeah,
just what I liked about her is um she wasn't a female Han Solo, so I don't want to
yeah,
just put that archetype, but she wasn't a damsel in distress. So she
yeah,
was a very active participant in everything that happened and something unique that we hadn't seen in Star Wars before.
yeah. Very much so. I would like to see her pop up again. Maybe that'll happen sometime eventually.
Sure.
Number 2, if you could own a life-size working replica of any Star Wars vehicle, what would you choose now? Patrick, your friend Patrick,
Yeah.
our mutual friend Patrick,
Yes.
was on the show a couple weeks ago, and he of course chose the Halcyon. Are you going to go in the same direction?
I'm not. I
Okay.
certainly love the Halcyon. It's near and dear to my heart, of course. But if I'm going to go at a more personal level, something I can actually probably use in my daily life, it'd be a speeder bike for sure. I know that's
Oh,
a
nice.
common probably request, but man, who wouldn't love to go fast? You're super sleek. It's the closest thing you'd have to flying, and
Yeah.
you could probably get ahead of traffic in that pretty easily.
Maybe also the most dangerous Star Wars vehicle
Probably,
because
sure, but I'm
you
not
are
going to
just
use it in the
exposed
forest.
to the that especially in that environment. You don't want to drive it around
Right.
Northern California.
No.
But would you go for like the Return of the Jedi speeder bike, or would you want the bikes that they're using on Skeleton Crew are more
Right.
like they look a little bit more earthly? I don't know which would
Yes.
you prefer.
Oh, no, it's the Jedi model for sure, no
Okay,
question.
okay,
And I need a couple of blasters on the front to get that pesky
yeah,
VW bug out of my way.
right.
That'd be really nice too.
Love it. Okay, number 3. Do you have a favorite non-human sentient Star Wars alien species? So we're not talking about the creatures here, like the
Right.
the banthas or the womp rats. We're talking
Sure.
about somebody you could have a conversation with in any of the many Star Wars languages, like an Admiral Akbar who's a Mon Calamari. Do you have a favorite alien species in Star Wars?
So for this, I am going to lean towards a Halcyon. I fell
Okay,
in love with Babu Frick when I saw
okay,
him, obviously in the film, and the fact that they chose to make Shug Drabor
yeah,
the creator of the Halcyon, the architect, if you will, also an Anzellan. They're droid smiths. They can design starships, and they're adorable. How can you go
yeah.
better than that?
So I want to tell you, I don't think I told you this yet. You may have seen it on my Instagram. Um, as you know, on the Halcyon, there was a tiny little door
Yeah,
representing Shug Drabor's office, right?
yeah,
And JC Reifenberg, who was on this show, I think it's September of this year, he's the owner of Scum and Villainy Cantina
yes,
in
yes.
Hollywood. And he recently 3D printed somebody had the file where you could 3D print Shug Drabor's door and he
Oh,
put it
that's
in the
great.
bar.
Oh,
So
that's
now if
great.
you visit Scum and Villainy Cantina in Hollywood, you can I think it's now the only place in public where you can find Shug Drabor's office. I guess he's relocated to the
Yeah,
Scum and
yeah.
Villainy
Well, it's good. It's a good
Cantina.
place for him to hang out. He'll
Yeah,
have lots of interesting people to meet and talk with.
yes. Number 4, what what is your favorite piece of Star Wars music and why?
This one was hard because I do love the Imperial March. Absolutely love it.
Yeah.
I think it's spectacular. I have a nice, rousing classical music mix that I have to get myself energized, and I include that as part of it. But really, when it comes down to it, the Force theme to me is
Okay.
just the best. It's tragic. It's also hopeful. Depends on how it's played. They use it in so many ways throughout the films
Yeah.
and some of the TV shows,
Yeah.
and it's just a gorgeous piece of music, and that's going to be my favorite for sure.
We have heard it in Skeleton Crew,
Yep,
actually,
we have.
when Jod used the Force to get the key into the brig cell there. Yeah, great, wonderful choice. Definitely one of my favorites as well. Number 5. This is an interesting one. If you could go back in time and be present for the filming of any Star Wars live action scene, which would it be?
So I'm going to take a sidebar here real quick, Mike, and say that I love all of these questions.
Oh,
Again,
thank
it's
you.
a testament to you. When we started the Heroes of the Halcyon podcast, we were like, well, we need an intro. Oh, I know. Let's do that thing that Mike does, where we bring some people in and we ease them in. And I love hearing these questions. For this, I had to think a lot because there are so many scenes that are spectacular. But I settled on Han Solo being frozen in carbonite. That
That's a
set.
popular one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I know,
No, that's
but
fine.
it's so good. I mean, the
Yeah.
lighting in there, you've got Darth Vader, you've got Chewbacca, you've got C-3PO, you've got Han, you got Leia, and you get to see them declare their love for each other.
Yeah.
Just to see the behind the scenes of how that all went down and how they shot that, I think that would be an honor and just an amazing thing to do.
the you mentioned the lighting, and I think that alone is a great reason why you would
Yes.
want to be on that set, the Cloud City
Oh my
carbon
gosh.
freezing platform. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know
Uh,
why they needed to light it that way, but I'm so
yeah.
glad that they did.
The blue and the orange together, as people have pointed out, that's become in more recent years, that's like the most common combination of colors on movie posters is blue and orange.
Yep, yep.
But yeah, it looks wonderful in that scene. Of course, thank you for your answers. Let's move on to Star Wars headlines for this week. It came out via Forbes magazine that Disney and Lucasfilm spent a tremendous amount of money to make Star Wars Andor, which is the second season is coming up. You know, this is the kind of behind the scenes stuff that I'm less interested in. I think the dollar sign part of it,
Sure, sure.
but it makes sense to me. Not only is it really you know, they went through the trouble of building like physical sets and put a lot of effort into it. You could see it on screen, but also Andor has more episodes than the other Star Wars
Yeah, yeah.
Disney Plus series. There's 12 episodes a season instead of 8. So I think that's part of why it was a little bit more
Of course, of course.
expensive. And I have the feeling that when we get to this coming spring and we see that second season, it's going to be totally worth it. Not for us because we didn't pay for it, but I imagine Disney and Lucasfilm will feel as though it was money well spent, if you know what I mean. Did you have any thoughts on that,
Well,
Drew?
just the locations that they go to and shoot,
Yeah.
and I'm famous on Heroes of the Halcyon for I still have only watched the first 6 episodes. I just haven't gone back, and you know how it is, Mike, when
Okay.
you watch a million things at once.
Yes. I'm
But in
that way.
those,
Uh, Agatha all along.
yeah,
I
yeah,
think I've seen half of those episodes and I haven't went and finished yet, but eventually we're gonna get there. Yeah, and like House of the Dragon season
uh-huh.
2, I think we got 2/3 of the way through, and yeah, eventually, like when season 3 comes out. With Star Wars, I do have to keep up. I do want to
You
keep
do.
up, but yeah,
Sure, sure,
I
sure.
know what you mean. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, yeah, but the locations, just even in those first 6 episodes,
Yeah.
so much practical scenery. I know there was use of the vault and some of that, but they had to go to those places in a lot of cases. That
Yeah.
rhymed inadvertently,
Yes.
and so that's obviously part of the expense. And the look of the show, it to me, I'm loving Skeleton Crew. Spoiler alert as we talk about it more later, but I can tell that it's kind of fantastical and maybe not as real, but Andor looks real, and to do that, you gotta spend some money.
Absolutely, you do. Yeah, you got to spend money to make money and to make good TV and good Star
Mhm.
Wars. And yeah, I couldn't be more excited for this second season coming
Oh,
up
yeah.
in the spring. Second item this week. Oh, Lego Star Wars Rebuild the Galaxy. It's an animated miniseries that's on Disney Plus. I think you can also watch it on YouTube right now. It has been nominated for an Annie Award, which is the animation industry awards for best TV limited series. So congratulations to Dan Hernandez and Benji Samit, who have been on this podcast talking about that show. I thought that was a tremendous amount of fun, and I hope that they win. Yeah, good luck to you guys. Did you get a chance to check that out, Drew?
That would be one of the million things.
Okay,
No, I
yeah,
haven't.
exactly. You can't watch it all, but yeah, highly recommend it, especially for families like who want to see Star Wars like mixed up a little bit because it's sort of a different take on the Star Wars galaxy. It's called Lego Star Wars Rebuild the Galaxy. You can check that out right now, and again, they are up for an Annie Award. Star Wars Celebration Japan is coming up in April. Very excited for that, and they revealed 4 more badge art designs in this very, very cool looking historical art style called ukiyo-e. Ukiyo-e. Not saying it right, I apologize, but it's super cool looking. We have the images on laughingplace.com. They're also over at starwars.com. I guess my question to you, True, are you planning to go to Star Wars Celebration? And if not, or if so, have you seen these badges?
I have seen the badges. I think
Yeah,
they're beautiful. I love that they're going in directions that we haven't seen before for some of the
yeah,
badges in previous gatherings. I unfortunately am not going to go, but I am so jealous of everyone because not only will we get to go to Star Wars Celebration, but Tokyo Disney Sea. I was lucky enough to
yeah.
go a couple of years ago. It is. absolutely the most remarkable theme park in the world. And of course, at Universal Studios, they still kind of have the Jaws ride there. So there's that. So I'm jealous of anybody going.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's going to be a blast, and I will definitely be heading to those theme parks while there. Every time we travel, my wife Tori and I, if we travel to a foreign country that happens to have a famous theme park,
Yeah,
I'm always gung ho about the parks, and my wife would prefer to. Oh, we got to see the city, all the historical
sure.
sites, and I'm
Sure.
interested in that as well. But my heart is in in the parks.
Oh,
So
absolutely. I had
yeah,
a business trip to Shanghai a few years ago,
yeah.
and my friend was like, "Do you want to go see our historic buildings? Do you want to?" It's like, no, I really want to go see the Disney park, please. So yeah, I'm with you.
So we'll divide our time wisely, and we will definitely be seeing Tokyo Disney Sea among the other parks there. And then look for us around Tokyo, checking out the other sights and sounds.
Oh, and that little
prior,
Star Wars
prior to
celebration, of course. Yeah.
yeah, prior to Star Wars Celebration. By the way, I don't even know if I've mentioned it on this show here, but who's the Bossk will be represented. I don't have a big announcement about that yet as far as the guest, but as with last Star Wars Celebration, Who's the Bossk does have a panel at this year's
Ah,
Star Wars Celebration.
congratulations. That's great.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks a lot. I'm super excited about that. Like I said, more information coming in the new year about the particulars of Who's the Boss at Star Wars Celebration. In the world of comic books this week, I have not had a chance to pick it up yet because of the holiday. It is out now. Star Wars: The Battle of Jakku, Last Stand, #1. So this is the final of 3 miniseries that make up a 12-issue maxi series called The Battle of Jakku that takes place after Return of the Jedi. I've been liking it with some reservations. I do hope it ends strong because the previous 2 miniseries have kind of let me down in the end. Like they started off really good, and then I don't know, they kind of tapered off to me. They kind of petered out. So let's see what happens with this one. I'm probably going to pick it up either later today or tomorrow and review it over at laughingplace.com. Should I ask if you're keeping up with the comics at
So
all?
I
Okay.
heard a recent episode where you talked about them, and you had
Yeah.
mentioned it started strong, and
Yeah.
as with a lot of things, I suspect I'm not alone in this. I wanna let it end, and then I can pick up
Yeah.
the trade paperbacks. I can see it all in one, and I think when you can read them through and you don't have to wait, for the
Yeah.
next issue, I think that makes it a little. It smooths out some of the rough edges to a degree because
Probably.
there's yeah, something right around the corner, and endings are hard. That's
That's
always a tricky
true.
part.
That's true. It's true of so many things,
Yeah, yeah.
except the Star Wars prequel trilogy, which the ending was the best part. But the other trilogies, the ending was the weakest, in my opinion.
Yeah, sure.
Um, and yeah, there's been so many other examples of that being the case. Yeah, well, I'm crossing my fingers that because this is a very important part of the saga. This
Yeah.
period, it's like the year following Return of the Jedi, and it's important because it ends up, Jakku obviously is Rey's home planet in the sequel trilogy, so it ties into that, and it's a kind of about how the last remnant of the Empire is defeated after the Battle of Endor. So, crossing my fingers for that. We'll see how that goes. You can read my review coming up. Let's get into merchandise for this week. Hot Toys. This is the high-end collectible manufacturer, Hot Toys. They revealed two new 1/6 scale figures of 2 characters from Star Wars: The Clone Wars, the animated series, namely Commander Wolf, who's one of the clone commanders. He is a clone of Jango Fett, as you know, and a Wolf Pack clone trooper, who's one of the troopers serving under Commander Wolf. I'm not a huge Clone Wars guy, so this isn't something that I would pick up. I think our friend Martin would be interested. He probably has some of these Hot Toys figures, right?
He
Uh,
probably has them pre-ordered if I had to guess.
yeah.
Yeah, or yeah,
Okay.
yes, most definitely.
How do you feel about the Clone Wars, and have you checked out any of these Hot Toys before?
I check them all out when I'm at Martin and
Okay.
Christine's house because
Yeah.
again they have everything, and the way that Hot Toys is building some of these things are just beautiful. I don't collect them myself, but I will say that the Wolfpack Clone Troopers look pretty cool, so I think that's
Yeah.
going to be a fun one to see.
Great. Awesome. You can see images of those over at laughingplace.com, and you can go to Hot Toys website and pre-order them if you would like. They're a little pricey, but they are really nice and really detailed.
They're
They're
gorgeous. Yes.
bigger than the Hasbro figures, of course, by a significant amount. And yeah, these are like the high-end figures if you're really into collecting super nice Star Wars collectibles. Let's see. From Hasbro, though, this week I received. Oh, here's one right here. I have it
Oh,
actually
cool.
on my desk. These are Star Wars and Marvel mix mashers. So basically, they're a bunch of different characters that you can pull apart.
Oh,
All their
that's awesome.
limbs and the head comes off. I've got Chewbacca here carrying Grogu, and he actually has Miles Morales Spider-Man's body. I don't know if you can see
Oh,
that.
that's awesome.
There's the little spider logo. His
Nice.
torso is Miles Morales. But there's a bunch of different Marvel and Star Wars and Transformers characters actually from Hasbro, and you can mix them all around. It reminded me of we've talked about action figures before,
Yeah.
you and I.
Yeah.
Drew. When I was a kid in He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, there was a figure called Modulok.
Yep.
I don't know if you're familiar with that guy, but you could pull
Very
them
much.
apart and rebuild them in all sorts of different ways. So that's what kind of reminded me. That's what that reminded me of. And you can watch my unboxing video on the Laughing Place YouTube channel right now. And let's see. Lastly, in Star Wars headlines for this week, the video game Fortnite has debuted new Star Wars Samurai, a new Star Wars Samurai bundle. And the image that I saw includes samurai-looking Darth Vader and a samurai-looking Stormtrooper, kind of almost sort of similar to the badge designs for Star Wars Celebration Japan. So I wonder if that's a coincidence or if that was coordinated in that way. Drew, have you played Fortnite?
I have. I'm terrible at it. I am horrible. My son, of course, as a lot of people, that generation, he can build things way faster. I die within the first 50 or 60 people for sure. But I did.
Are you building things in that game?
Well, so as you go in the game, one of the things you can do is you can build towers, you can build structures that you can use to hide from your opponents or to try to get levels up to get the high ground, if you will.
Right.
But these Star Wars Samurai are just beautiful, and I also wondered the same thing when I saw the art kind of not matching, but complementing the badges that we saw.
Yeah, so those the Star Wars Samurai bundle is available right now, I believe, for Fortnite. If you do play that game, those designs look pretty cool. Definitely check that out. And that's going to bring us to the end of Star Wars headlines for this week and to our main topic for this episode, which of course is episode 5 of Star Wars Skeleton Crew, entitled "You Have a Lot to Learn About Pirates." The way they've been doing the titles of this series of each individual episode is it's just a line of dialogue that happened to be spoken by one of the characters in the episode. This one was spoken by Jude Law's character Jod. Let's get into, before we talk about the new episode, Drew, what were your hopes and expectations for this series before you saw any of it, and what did you think of the previous 4 episodes once you did watch them?
So I, like everyone, had heard, of course, that this was going to be kind of an Amblin homage, if you will, to Goonies and some of the things that we saw in the 80s. And man, did we get that. Holy mackerel. The fact that the At-Atten neighborhood that Wim and Neil live in looks like my neighborhood or any other. I mean, just the fact that I was expecting to see Henry Thomas come over the hill with ET on his bike any moment. And just the way they built it up, the fact that it's wish fulfillment for what I suspect you and I, Mike, when we were little and enjoying Star Wars and imagining what it'd be like to take off. We get to see it. We get to see it from the kids' perspective. So those were my expectations, and they have been met and exceeded and subverted in just ways that I'm very much enjoying.
Excellent. Yeah, same here for sure. This week's episode was entitled "You Have a Lot to Learn About Pirates." It was directed by a guy named Jake Schreier, and I know he went to school with uh, John Watts and Chris Ford, I believe, who were the
Okay.
creators. I think he went to NYU with them. He mentioned that in an interview recently. I think also, I want to say Bryce Dallas Howard was there the same time that they were as well. He's made a few movies before. One was called Robot and Frank, which I heard a lot of good things about, and I have never watched it. I would like to check it out. He also made a movie called Paper Towns, which I have not seen, but I remember the trailer for that movie. And then he has directed the upcoming Marvel Studios film Thunderbolts, which looks like a tremendous amount of fun with
Yes.
David Harbour and all those other. It's kind of the villain. It's sort of the Suicide Squad of the Marvel universe. So I thought he did a great job
Yes.
this week, right? Like when the name popped up on the screen at the end, he got the first credit in the closing credits there, and I was like, "Yep, you did a wonderful job. Looking forward to seeing his other stuff." It was written by Myung Jo Westner. First writing credit on this series that was not Watts and Ford, by the way. And she had previously done something called High Potential, which I think I'd heard of, but I'm not 100% sure what that is.
Yeah, I think that's the show that is the CBS procedural where Sweet Tea from Ain't It, I think that's the same show, High Potential. But yeah, that's a great show if you haven't seen it.
Wait, what's Sweet Tea?
So I apologize for those who enjoy Ain't It Sunny in Philadelphia, or It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Always Sunny, yeah.
I apologize that I don't know the characters' names, but I know the actress. But I don't know her name apparently. But in High Potential, she plays kind of a character who knows and can see details about crime scenes.
Okay,
Kind of a Sherlock Holmes-esque. She's a high potential individual, hence the name of the series.
got it.
And if that's not the same high potential that this person is, I do recommend that show because it is a ton of fun.
I similarly, I have not watched much of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. It's one of those shows that's always been recommended to me,
Yes.
and it's just, I think it's daunting because of how many
So
episodes and
much,
seasons there
so
are.
much. Yes.
But it looks very funny. I'm sure I would like it, but again, the time thing gets in the way. The cinematographer this week was David Klein, who has done other episodes of this show, and he's best known, I think, for The Mandalorian, having shot that before. The editor was Terrell Gibson, again, who did the movie Sorry to Bother You. Let's see, Drew, first reactions. What did you think of You Have a Lot to Learn About Pirates?
This is the subversion that I was referring to earlier. I didn't expect that we'd see a turn from the character so fast.
Right.
It definitely has taken the left turn that the show needs to take as it comes into its final episodes.
Right.
But the stakes just got raised in a place, in a way that's organic to the show, to what we would see. The characters are behaving exactly like we'd expect, but maybe we weren't hoping. And I just enjoy it. And as every single episode has, it just makes me want to watch that next episode as quick as possible.
Yeah, this one especially, I would say the cliffhanger was really like tantalizing.
Yes.
Because, yeah, kind of skipping to the end here, not only do we get that heel turn,
Mm-hmm.
as they would say in the world of professional wrestling, but we also get the introduction of a lightsaber that Wim tries and fails to activate properly.
Yeah.
And now he's got it. I guess I'm going to skip around a little bit here, but this is a good time to segue into I want to hear your theories on what's going on with this guy, Jod Nanawood. He's Jude Law's character. He's got a million different aliases.
Yeah.
But he also we could say that he definitely has the Force now, right? We've seen
Yes.
him use it a bunch of times. Then in this episode, he quotes Qui-Gon Jinn from the Phantom Menace. Your focus determines your reality. He says that to Wim. And he also warns Wim against forming attachments, which is a very Jedi thing.
Yes.
So I have my little theory. I guess is probably where most people are going. But what do you think? What do you think this? I'm sure we'll learn a little bit more about his history.
Absolutely, yes.
As this season goes on. But what is your theory about where he comes from?
I'm
Drew?
I'm with everybody else, Mike, and I followed along your reviews on laughingplace.com fairly significantly. So I think I'm slow to sometimes get some things about series and these puzzle boxes. But it seems obvious that there's pretty much only one place that someone of roughly his age could learn
Yes.
to use the Force and perhaps be taught some of these wisdoms. So I like the theory that you presented on laughingplace.com.
Which was that he was a Jedi Padawan,
Mm-hmm.
which is, he could get away with saying he's not really a Jedi if he
Yep.
never fully graduated into
Yeah, if he
becoming a
didn't
Jedi
complete his
Knight.
training, yeah, if
Yeah,
he escaped Order 66 and he himself, I mean, that certainly would be a way for you to learn not to trust people and to
right.
put a shell around yourself to protect yourself.
Yeah,
And in the galaxy as it is and the stories that we've seen, I could absolutely see someone kind of turning into a scoundrel, if you will, in
yeah.
it for themselves, and maybe not just for the next score, but just a way to scratch out a living and an existence in kind of the rough spot we've seen the galaxies in.
So sort of like Cal Kestis in the
Hmm.
Star Wars Jedi video games, he would have been roughly that age, I think, when Order 66 happened. He somehow escaped and went into hiding and kind of became, like you said, this scoundrel, but took a different path than Cal
Yep.
Kestis, who did eventually become a Jedi Knight. This guy went and became a pirate. So I imagine we will learn more about
Hmm.
that if that does indeed turn out to be his past. But I found, each time we get more information about him, and I found these little tidbits to be very telling this week. Let's see, Drew, any other specific moments or highlights that stood out to you in this episode?
Two things. One,
Okay.
and they lead into one another. I found it very amusing when the bounty hunters come down, ready to, obviously search down our heroes, and they come down to the planet, and they said, "Hey, welcome to the planet. This is a place for peace, as long as," and then they
Yeah.
just shoot both of them and destroy them immediately.
Right.
I laughed out loud, but then I immediately was like, "Oh no, they died," to
Right.
quote Game Night. And this show has a mix of, oh, isn't this crazy silly stuff, but when the Ankh Cinder went to light hyperspeed in the end of a couple episodes back, and we saw that fuel line come back and destroy that base, people probably died there too. So I guess what I'm getting at is we're seeing the danger, and I love that this show kind of it's still adventure-y and fun, but we get to see a little bit of the aftermath in ways that that we don't sometimes see, like all those skeletons and the booby trap hallways,
Yeah.
that trap, the raised trap, and we look up and we see that it got some folks. So I absolutely love that it's in the middle of the 80s when I was coming of age.
Yes.
Movies, they didn't shy away from showing some of the
Right.
gruesome stuff. But I think a lot of media these days has been somewhat sanitized of the danger,
Yes.
where it's hinted at. But this show, we get to see these kids could die.
Yeah.
These kids could face something way above their ability to handle it. And I just love that we're getting to see some of the dangerous things that they might face.
That's funny because there's a conversation or a scene in this episode that I feel like is sort of the thesis statement of what you're trying to say,
Yeah.
of what you
Yes.
are saying, which
Yes.
is when Jod is like reminding the kids that there is real danger, that there are real pirates pursuing them, and they're being kids, they're like, oh, I want my friend to be on my team. It's like, it
Yeah.
doesn't matter.
They're
There are
jumping on the
pirates.
bed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Did you have one other thing you wanted to
No,
highlight?
those are the two
Okay.
things that the seeing. I love the comedy, that the little
Yeah.
bits that they sprinkle in to make it fun. But again, the fact that it's not totally sanitized
Yeah.
makes it adds that little element of danger that I haven't seen in a long time, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, totally agreed. I really like this episode a lot. I think I will call it my favorite one so far. I really like the first three. Last week I was not so hot on,
Sure.
but this one really did it for me. It had the perfect mix of fun and humor, and also taking things seriously, like you said, and having real danger, and then introducing new locations that were really interesting, new characters that were really
Yes.
interesting.
Yes.
Uh,
Yes.
let's get into that really quickly. So, just to go through some of the guest stars here, um, Kelly McDonald is an actress that when I saw her pop up on the show, she's got the white makeup on, and I was like, I know her face and I know her voice, but I couldn't place her. Did you feel the same way, Drew, or did you know
I
who it was right away?
I didn't know who it was until I read your review,
Okay.
but the voice, as you mentioned, the voice,
Yeah.
I was like, wait a minute, what's going on here? Yeah.
So the thing that I know her best from and love her in is the movie No Country for Old Men with Josh Brolin. It's a Coen Brothers film, and she's great in that as Josh Brolin's wife. But I think most people, and especially Disney fans, will know her as the voice of Merida, Princess Merida in Brave. She's a Scottish actress, of course,
Yep.
and I just thought it was fun that she popped up and she's got that very distinct accent. And I wanted to briefly mention that, yes, she's the second Disney princess that has joined the Star Wars galaxy. I couldn't come up with any other examples, but after Mulan herself, Ming-Na Wen,
Yeah.
played Fennec Shand in Book of Boba Fett and Mandalorian, of course. So very fun to see her, Kelly MacDonald, in this show. And then the hotelier lady, they don't give her a name, but
Yeah.
she's the lady who like checks them in the beginning. She's played by an actress named Julie Ann Emery, and it was again one of those faces where it's like, I know this lady. I couldn't come up with what she was from, and she's if you've watched Better Call Saul, she
Yes.
has a very funny recurring role in that show. She and her husband have like embezzled money and have sought legal advice from Saul Goodman or Jimmy McGill, as he's called at
Yes.
that point. But another great like character actress popping up here, and then we have to talk about Catholips,
Oh,
Drew.
so good. So good. And as soon as they said his name, I'm like, of course it'd be Cthulhu referencing. That's perfect.
So this very Lovecraftian, enormous squid monster guy is taking a mud bath in the spa, and in true kid movie trope way, the kids kind of befriend him instead of him becoming another enemy or obstacle in their way. I don't know. Did that character stick out to you? I just got a kick out of him.
Oh, it absolutely stood out to me.
Yeah,
So my main number one hobby is playing board games, and
yeah,
I love the Fantasy Flight Arkham universe with the card game and Eldritch Horror. So I have an eye for Cthulhu-esque type characters, and as
yeah.
soon as the tentacle came out and he started approaching, I'm like, oh my goodness, that's straight out of modern interpretations of Lovecraft fiction. And when they said the name, I was like, well, of course, it'd be Catholips. That's perfect.
And he was voiced by a voice actor named Patrick Seitz. I looked him up on IMDb. He's done a ton of video games and I think some animated stuff as well. Yeah, that was a really fun
Yes.
addition to the Star Wars galaxy. Not an existing species that I know of, but super cool. I hope we get a toy of Catholips
Nice.
eventually. They don't really do a ton of like supporting aliens anymore, sadly, but I would love to see in some form
So cool.
Catholips represented in the merchandise and the toys. And then yeah, there was so much Goonies in this episode. You
So
talked
much
about the
Goonies.
Goonies influence, and I
Yes.
thought the first three had a lot of
Oh,
Goonies in it, but this is really the one where they get into, okay, this pirate has dug all these tunnels underneath a spa. In the Goonies, it's underneath like a country club, so
yeah.
it's basically the same
Here we
exact
are.
thing. And the booby
Yes.
traps, there's one booby trap that was like right out of Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade also. But yeah, I just had so much fun with all the Goonies homages. I don't know, did any of that bring you joy as much
Oh,
joy as it brought me, Drew?
absolutely. Again, we're right back there. And the fact, again, that it's something straight out when I'm 12 or 13, I get to watch someone who kind of seems like me on the screen, kind of going through this
Yeah,
adventure the same way I
yeah,
can, just to help identify people who watch the show with somebody on the characters. And I want to go on that booby trap. I love those kind of
yeah,
traps that they have in Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark, Tomb Raider. Just the it's fun to see. The spike trap that you're mentioning from the India was really cool, but that acid pool was brilliant and just fun to see. And again, I'm reminded that as they get access to the system, refill the acid pool, and you hear the bandits who are chasing them going, it's acid
yeah.
pirate. Oh yeah, just loved all that so much.
The kind of booby traps that would never work in a million years in
Right.
real life, and
Yes.
also even if they did work when they were built, they would deteriorate immediately. But
Yep.
there's such a common trope in this type of storytelling, and it's so wonderful and so much fun that you don't have any complaints
No,
about it, right?
no, none in the slightest. This beam of sunlight, if I throw something in it, it pulls it up. Of course,
Right,
that's how it would work. You don't fall into the
right.
traps, you get raised into them. So
Speaking of the Goonies, I do want to talk about probably my favorite Easter egg in this week's episode, and this is the name of the pirate that they've discovered. So SM-33, the pirate droid, has spilled the name
yeah.
of what his old pirate captain was, and it's Tack Renod, Takrenod. When I looked at the subtitles my second time through, I said, "Oh, that's Donner backwards."
Oh,
So
that's so
it's
brilliant.
gotta be
Yes.
a tribute to Richard Donner, the director, or Dick Donner, as I've heard him called by his
Yeah.
friends and co-workers, co-collaborators, um, director of the Goonies and
Yep. Yep.
Superman movies and all sorts of stuff in the 80s, or late 70s, early 80s.
Yep.
Um, he passed away within the last 5 years, I believe, but very cool that they were
That
able
was
to
cool.
pay tribute to him. Did you catch that,
I
Drew, or is
did
that
not
another?
catch that. I did that
Okay.
and until you sent the outline and I read it, I was like, "What? Oh, wait, of course, it's right in front of me. That's brilliant."
I didn't catch it until my second viewing when I was reading the subtitles. So when they were saying the name, I was like, I don't know how you're spelling that. But once I saw how it was spelled, I was like, okay,
Well, this is
definitely.
clearly it. Yeah, yeah.
All right, we've talked about Jod. Yeah, it seems like we both had a really good time with this episode. Was there anything that you did not care for?
So it's not that I didn't care for it.
Yeah,
It's I really, really like Jod. I love that character.
yeah,
I think when I was answering previous levels of the Star Wars question, I probably said that I wanted to be in the Rebel Alliance, but I've reflected, and no, I'd be a scoundrel for sure. I mean, they have all the fun, and I enjoy him being kind of a rapscallion. I don't know the right way to say
yes,
it. I mean, scoundrel's way, but for him to maybe actually have a villainous turn, it's not that I didn't care for it. Again, I think it's cool. I'm enjoying the story and seeing where it goes, but I don't want to have him have a villainous backstory. So it was a little bit. I'm disappointed in Jod. Is really what I guess I'm saying.
Uh, well, yeah, I mean, kind of the same thing happens, and Lando Calrissian is
Sure.
under Darth Vader's boot in The Empire Strikes Back, so you
Right.
kind of understand why he does what he does. But you do have these moments with Star Wars scoundrels where
Right.
they betray our heroes, and more often than not, they end up redeeming themselves in the
Sure.
end.
I expect
I
that will
don't know
happen
if
here.
that's going
Yeah.
to happen with Jod or not. We'll see, I guess.
Yeah.
He doesn't. I would say, okay, he holds uh Fern at knife point to her
At
throat.
knife point.
That's the
Yeah.
worst thing that he does, but he ultimately it doesn't seem like he wants to hurt them, right? Like he doesn't tell
Sure.
SM-33 to kill them. He just says
Sure.
take them prisoner, right? So in the end, I don't think he's going to do anything completely unforgivable. I don't know. What do you think?
I don't think he will either, and I, of course, do expect the redemption arc that we're gonna see. Maybe not a
Yeah,
full redemption, but, he'll come through and do the right thing eventually. But I wasn't expecting I mean, to hold the kid at knife point as a parent, with kids of my own, that's it's bizarre. It's just for him to do that, just it was like a bridge too far.
right, right.
So it's not that I won't forgive him for it, and
Yeah,
and maybe in classic storytelling tropes or methods, maybe there is a 3D chess move that you and I aren't seeing,
right.
with him doing this, but I don't think that he expected the kids to hit the trap and escape,
Yeah.
and the fact that he ignited that lightsaber, we didn't see it, but we heard it, in an ominous manner. I don't know. I definitely don't trust this guy anymore.
By the way, you're gonna know what I'm talking about here. You just reminded me of that smash cut to
Mhm.
lightsaber igniting. I just want to point everyone to a little YouTube video miniseries called Antiquities, a Galactic Star Cruiser story, episode 5. Uh, Opens with a character rebuilding a lightsaber, inserting a kyber crystal and igniting it.
Yes,
Has a very similar smash cut on ignition
it
with the
does.
sound and everything. So, yeah, I'm not saying they rip that off from me. But I'm saying, great minds think alike.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, exactly. Here's my little. Speaking of lightsabers, and I'm now that I say this aloud, I'm going to come off as a total hypocrite here. I really liked the end of this episode. Everything clicked for me,
Yeah,
but I wish we would get away from, and I've said this before on the show, I want to get away from lightsabers being the be all and end all of Star Wars. And
sure.
I like that this series was being, we thought Jod maybe was a Jedi. He had the Force powers. That was the closest that we had to the Jedi. And now lightsabers come into play, and I know it's going to be more about the Jedi and the lightsabers. And my tastes gravitate more toward the underworld side of things. So I
Yeah,
appreciated that about the show. I'm okay with it here because I do like when lightsabers are treated as this, it's not like every character's running around with a lightsaber. It's treated as this important thing. It's an antique. I did the exact same thing in my little
yeah,
mini series because it became about a lightsaber. It was about a lightsaber from the very beginning, actually. So, what am I even saying? I don't know. I just like when storytellers can find ways to tell stories about Star Wars that don't
sure.
necessarily center around the Jedi and lightsabers, but I'm okay with it here. I'm looking forward to seeing what else they do with it. That's just my little tirade. I'm
Well,
okay. Everything's going to
sure.
be okay.
Well, to rip off William Shatner from The Simpsons, of course,
Yeah.
again with the lightsabers.
I mean, I totally buy everything about it, though. You would think a pirate who's like amassing a collection of cool stuff, he's going to want a lightsaber of his
He's
very
gonna
own.
have
Maybe
one.
he
Yep.
killed a Jedi at some point to get it. I don't know. It's cool that he has one. It's by the way, very funny moment when Wim goes to activate it and it's upside down. I
Yep.
called it. I saw how he was holding it. Did you see it, Drew?
I saw it too, and I was just
Okay.
waiting. At first, when he pulled it, I was like, "Oh, it's upside down." Okay, so that's what we're gonna do. But again, for folks who aren't, as well, I'm not as well versed
Yeah.
as you, but who can spot that, we think we're gonna get the kid's gonna come to the rescue. But
Yes.
no, we subverted again, and
Yes.
we so I thought that was handled well. I loved how it left the trail as the blade turned off. It was still cutting the floor as he
Yeah.
threw it away.
It did
Um,
not do the Rick and Morty thing where it went
right.
all the way down through the
Yeah,
core of his
straight through the center of the earth. Yeah, that would which is a fabulous episode of that show, by the way. But I love that it actually seemed real in that world.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I spotted it, but I like the way it handled. But I see where you're coming with again with the lightsabers.
Yeah. But as it stands, I will say I'm fine with it and I enjoyed it. And I hope Wim's foot is okay.
I hope so too. I hope that it wasn't anything more than a superficial injury.
Like singed his little space sneaker there.
Right, yeah.
So I don't know. Where do you think that trap door leads to? Because in my head, it went to spikes like all the other traps would, but I guess
So
not.
no, yeah, and where do I think it's? I think it's going just to another level.
Yeah.
I do think it's unusual. Maybe it's a brig of some kind, but there'll be a way to get out. I do think that there's more to the booby traps that we'll be seeing next week, and
Yeah.
I think it'll be. I just love that whole area, and I hope we get to see more of it.
Me too. Boy, I'm super into this show. This is episode 5 of 8, so there's 3 left. Drew, what are you hoping for and or expecting from what we have left to go?
So I love the reveal. That's one thing about puzzle box shows that's sometimes very frustrating is that they wait till the last like 10 minutes and they have to wrap everything up really quick.
Yeah.
I think they're doing a good drip feed of the mysteries of the show to find out that Atten was an old Republic mint, which
Yeah.
basically I think that's a great MacGuffin. So I think we're going to get to see a little bit more about how that is played into things. I don't quite understand why there's a barrier, why it needs to be cut off from the rest of the
Right.
galaxy. So I'm very much looking forward to that. But I love the drip feed that we're getting of little bits and pieces about not just the characters, but also the environment of the show as we go. So I'm expecting that. I'm trying not to get my hopes up, but I really do think that they have a good shot of ending this thing in a way that's satisfactory. So I'm excited for that.
Oh, I hope so, and I believe they will as
Yeah.
well. My other question about it being a mint, since you brought that up, this kind of goes back to like the Dharma Initiative and Lost and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
If okay, let's say this planet is, as they say, an old Republic mint. They're making these credits, little metal credits that the dataries that they're handing
Hmm.
out all over the
Yep.
place. What's going on in that the characters who are living on that planet don't realize that the old Republic is no longer there? Like they're making the money, but where is it going? You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah, that's again, that's what's super exciting about this is
Yeah,
just the storytelling possibilities, and I'm hoping that we're going to find ways that you and I probably don't think ahead of time. So that'll be fun.
yeah. Very excited to see the final 3 episodes. Anything else you would like to say about Skeleton Crew before we move along here, Drew?
I have to, again, I think it's a requirement when we talk about the Skeleton Crew. I can't wait to see more of Neil and Neil's species. Just think that he's the character that I identify with. I love to think that if I was involved in that at or right about his age, that I would definitely be the Neil of the group.
Yep.
And so what they did such a great job with that character design, making him something adorable that you just want to hug, that you want to be friends with. I love Neil just as much as everybody else who you've had on the show says. So I'm excited to see more of his character and his species in the future.
Me too. And gosh, yeah, when I loved the Goonies growing up. That was probably my favorite movie as a 5, 6, 7 year old. And I just wanted to go on an adventure like that more than anything. And yeah, that's what this is all about,
Yeah.
kind of getting to relive that kind of thing. So I do have a special surprise here at the end of the episode, but first I want to get into what would ordinarily be our final segment here on first on Who's the Boss. The segment is called First Steps into a Larger World. This kind of goes back to what we did in that other podcast briefly, Drew.
Yeah.
This is where we talk about the media that we've been consuming and or enjoying outside of Star Wars. I watched a movie last weekend called Speak No Evil. This is a new sort of like horror thriller. It stars James McAvoy, and I thought it was just okay. I
Okay.
watched it on Peacock. I saw the trailer. The trailer looked interesting. It got good reviews. It was in like the 80s on Rotten Tomatoes, I think. So I checked it out, and I thought it was okay. It falls into the horror traps and cliche.
Yeah.
I would say a little bit too often, but it's fine. It's got some good performances. I would say nothing to write home about. How about you, Drew? Anything you've been consuming, watching, reading, playing lately that you would like to mention?
Yeah, so the nostalgia bug has hit me, not just because of Skeleton Crew, but just maybe I'm in an age where I'm reflecting my childhood and some of the things in my youth that I didn't get a chance to do when I was younger. And for me, it's been these handhelds that you can buy that are basically you can play every single game that ever came
Oh,
out for the NES or the Super NES or the Genesis or any of these older consoles. The technology for getting some of these Android devices or Linux devices, uh, they are so amazing. And I've just been watching all I can on YouTube about folks going in and getting some of these older games to run on some of these systems that
okay.
you can put in your pocket and get a level of Advance Wars or Super Mario World off before the end of in your time at the DMV or
Oh
whenever
yeah.
you're just waiting around. So yeah, I'm really enjoying these.
So I feel like I know the answer to this question already, but is this something that's like officially licensed, or
No,
are
no,
these like
no,
emulators
no.
and ROMs? And yeah,
No, and that's the gray area. I'm also fascinated by that
yeah.
because I am a strong believer that people who make things have the right to
Oh yeah, but
capitalize
we've
on
all
them.
bought these games so many times.
Absolutely, yeah, yeah. So I'm not going to say I don't feel. There's a part of me
Yeah,
that maybe feels a little guilty, but no, they're not licensed. But the fact that you can find these games and
yeah.
make these run, and I'm getting literally the same joy at playing some of these games that I did when I was 12 or 15, and it's been a lot of fun.
That's awesome. Yeah,
Yeah,
that sounds like something I would definitely enjoy. And yeah, I would feel less guilty because of the like. First of all, I bought them all, or my parents
sure.
and
Uh
family
huh.
members bought them all for me as kids. But
Yes.
then there were a bunch of these that I rebought from Nintendo when the Wii was popular and they had the virtual console. rebought them all, and now I no longer have access because my Wii stopped working. I can't get the console to turn on, and
Right.
I can't connect that account to the current Switch Nintendo account, so you can't access
Nope.
any of those virtual console games. So yeah, I would feel less guilty about it for those reasons. But it does sound pretty cool.
Yeah,
Okay,
they're fun.
Drew, here's my special surprise for this episode. My wife's family does a holiday gift exchange every year, and each year there's a different theme. One year it was, I think, socks, so you would get
Oh,
some.
cool.
People would list off, oh, here's what I like, and you would get them socks. Pick something like, oh, I'm into Star Wars. Somebody might get me Star Wars socks. One year I think it was pajamas. One year it was puzzles.
Oh, that's
Um,
fun.
this year the theme was something you created on your own.
Oh,
Okay,
cool.
so for my sort of secret Santa, I got my mother-in-law, and I know she really likes the character of IG-12 or IG-11, who became IG-12 on The Mandalorian, and
Yeah.
she likes Grogu a lot too. So I drew her a nice, like, poster-sized
Oh, that's awesome.
drawing of IG-12 with Grogu like in the controls. But that's neither here nor there. The really cool thing that I want to highlight is the gift that I got from my father-in-law who drew me
Yeah.
in the gift exchange, and his name's Mike Lyon. He's been on this show before. He talked about the season finale of Andor season 1. So you can go and listen to his episode if you like. But as my gift for this gift exchange, he created a 5-minute podcast of his own
Oh,
that is a
that's great.
tribute to Who's the Bossk.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
and the title it made me tear up when he said the title. The title of the podcast is Who's My Favorite Son-in-Law?
Oh, that's great.
And then the reason why this times out really well, Drew, is because in this little 5-minute podcast that he made, he also complimented our show, the
Oh,
Pop Culture Explorers Club.
that's great.
So I'm gonna play it. You're not gonna hear it if you're watching this live, by the way, on the Laughing Place YouTube. You're just gonna hear this if you're listening to the episode later on in audio form. This is Mike Lyon's gift exchange gift to me. The podcast is called Who's My Favorite Son-in-Law? Here we go. And that was the very generous and very thoughtful gift from my father-in-law, Mike Lyon. Yeah, like I said, it really made me very emotional when he played this for me last night as the Christmas gift for this big gift exchange that we do. Very, very thoughtful and so nice to hear all these compliments about. And he said I was accomplished accordionist, which is not true, but I do own an accordion. I'm just not good at playing it. So that's the only thing that I thought was an untrue, inaccurate statement in there. But otherwise, thank you so much to Mike Lyon for that very, very thoughtful gift. Otherwise, that's going to bring us to the end of this week's episode of Who's the Bossk. Big, big thank you to my guest for this week, Drew Grgich. Drew, uh, again, thank you again for coming back on the show. Where do you want to send people to find you if you'd like them to find you on the internet?
Sure. The best place would be on Instagram. I'm at Drew Grgich, DrewGrgich. Have a lot of fun. I share a lot of the stuff that people have shared, of course, related to the Galactic Star Cruiser, since that is my number one Star Wars fandom. But I love talking with folks there on Instagram.
Excellent. Yeah, and do check out Heroes of the Halcyon as well. Always have a good time listening to that show, and you can learn a lot about not only the Galactic Star Cruiser, but everything kind of tangentially related to it. The Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, immersive design, other both Star Wars and non-Star Wars things that relate to the Galactic Star Cruiser in some way. I'm so impressed by how creative you guys have been in coming up with topics to cover, coming out of the experience actually shutting down over a year ago. So
Yeah.
excellent job there.
Thank
On
you.
the
Thank you.
next episode, sure, of course, I always recommend your show to folks to find out more about the Galactic Star Cruiser. On the next episode of Who's the Bossk, we'll be talking about Star Wars Skeleton Crew episode 6. So come back for that next week. And as always, please visit laughingplace.com for all your Disney news and opinions. Thank you out there for listening or watching live on the Laughing Place YouTube channel. Thank you again to Drew for being my guest. I'm on Instagram at Who's the Bossk Pod, and may the force be with you. And we'll see you real soon. Thanks again. Bye.
Bye.